Hello everyone, this is my tutorial about making a chain in GameMaker Studio 2.3. Today we will make this chain, as you can see now. It can do these things. And it can break, of course. So, for the chain, we will need a sprite for the chain start. This sprite will be used by the object who will make the chains. And I have two pictures, as you can see. That's because if I would use that in the room, I can't see it. So I'm using this for the room create setuping, and in the actual game it will use this. And we need a chain sprite. I made this chain link and then flip it and mirror it in every direction, so it will look better in the game. And we will need a breaked chain sprite. These all sprites and the source code will be in the description. Okay, so first we need an object for the chain start. I will name it obj chain start, and it will use this sprite. Okay, first we need a create event. In every object, the first is of course to set the image speed to 0, so it will not break the animation. And now we set the image index to 1 to use that real chain start sprite. Okay, we will need an all chain variable. This will contain how many chains do we want to create, so how long chain, and we can modify this from the room. So we can modify this here. For example, I set it to 5, and like this we can make every length of chain. Okay, the next thing we need is a state variable. So state variable, it will contains, that is the chain start make the chains or not. So if it made, it will not make it again. Okay, we need a step event now, and of course first we have to check it that the chains isn't already made. So if the variable is in default string, the object is not did their work. Okay, so first we need a temporary variable called prechain. This will contain the ID of the previous chain, and then we need a for while. Of course, it will make all the chains by counting. So if I less than all chain I plus plus. It's a very simple thing. Okay, first we have to make our first chain because it will be different from the others. So if I equals 0, and we can comment here. I really like the commenting. This is the first chain. Okay, so now we can type the instance create to create the chain link. It will be instance create layer I, more like this one. The X is stay in the default, and with my sprite we need X minus half for the right origo point and Y. The layer will be the default layer. I can't write instances. And the OBJ will be the OBJ chain that we have to create now, of course, for the chain. I can call it chain link, but I will use just chain now. Important thing is that the chain should tick the use physics option. Of course we will use physics and the room have to be turned the physics on too. But I didn't change the gravity or anything like this. Okay, so we have to modify the code in the chain link that we created now. So I will use with. So it will create the instance and instantly modify it. So the most important thing will be here. We have to make the link between the two chains, or in this situation the link between the first chain link and the chain start. Okay, so we have to save this link in a variable so we can delete it later when the chain broke. We will type here the previous chain link, or in this situation the chain start. So it's pre-chain. The second is the instance own ID. Next the previous chain's X. So it's the same as the creating position. And previous chain Y. That's of course a little bit lower. And that's all. The other things are just the default things. So 0, false, 0, 0, false, false. The next thing what we want to do is store the ID of the next chain in this instance. We will do it with pre-chain that next chain equals ID. So it will write the previous chain, next chain variable its own ID. And the last thing is that we change the pre-chain to this instance ID. So the main thing is that we create a chain link and then write it to the ID of the next chain, because the link is created by the next chain every time. So it contains the link's ID or joint ID. Okay, the next thing we'll do will be the not first chains. So everything else. As if I not equals to or chain minus 1. So because it's an else, it will only work when the I is not 0, so not the first. Okay, we will do the same thing here. Expect that we adding the length to the creating Y position, because every chain will be lower and lower and lower, and we have to add it. So it will be 11 minus 3. I have calculated to my sprite, so if you make an own sprite, you have to modify this. 11 is the height of the chain sprite, and minus 3 is the height of the real chain start sprite. Okay, and we will modify things there too. So first is not minus, it's plus, and I forgot to type .x. And it's not will be minus 2, it will be plus 11 minus 4, because minus 11 will be the start of the previous chain, plus 11, and minus 4 will be the middle of the chain, so the link will be created here. Okay, the other thing is the same. I just have to type here that we change the state variable, so it will not make it again. I forgot that we have to make a collision shape for the chain. We will need a convex shape and just a simple shape. So it will be good like this. And you have to check the uses physics for the chain start too and make a collision shape for it. And you have to use the real sprite. The first thing you have to make in the chain is set image speed to 0, and of course you have to set the chain start density to 0, so it will not be affected by the gravity. So you can see it now. Here is our chain. It's a little bit little now because I didn't set a camera, but you can see it. Okay, you can see it better now. It's not perfect, but it's working. Okay, now we can make that variable sprite index for the chain, so it will look better. So we will use just choosing, it's the most simplest way to do this, I think. And now it's better. Okay, so that's the basic chain, but there is one more thing. If you want to create something at the end of the chain, like a lamp, so the lamp will be hinged to the chain, you can do this, and I will show it to you. So else, so it will apply to the next or the last running of this while. First we will need a hinged obj variable. This will contain the obj that will hinge. I already made this obj, so I will not show now. It will be in the description. So we will use obj lamp, of course. So if hinged obj not equals none, because we will write it none here and modify this from the creation code, so we can hinge anything we want to it. I comment it. So I will just make the basic code for this, but I use a more complicated code in my game. So it's the same like the chain link create, but instead of obj chain we will use hinged obj, and we will create at here, but we have to loop the sprite. At this sprite, the origin is in the top of the sprite, so it will be not problem like this. But sprites, when the origin point is not in the top, we will need a variable to set the amount of pixels for minusing the position, the creating position, you know. But I will make it not now. Okay, we make the joint, but now we just type +8 for the y position and minus 0.5. Of course, you have to check the physics for the hinged object. With the lamp, you will need -6 for the y position, because the chain joints are not exactly created in the right place. And I forget that you have to set the collision group for the chain links and the chain start to -1, so they will not collide each other. And I forgot that too, that you have to make a -6 here too in the creating position. You can see the collision shapes of the chains by make a draw event. First set draw cell, so it will draw this itself sprite, and then write physics draw debug. Okay, you can see now it's almost work. From close it's not looking very good, but from far it will look good. So you can change the depth of the lamp less than the chain's depth, so the lamp will be more close to the camera, so you will not see this end of the chain, so it will look like more realistic. Okay, and if I press space, it will apply an impulse for the lamp, and you can see it's work. It's not perfect, but game makers' physics are not perfect. I think it looks good. You can do it too in my project in the description. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is in the chain you need a health point variable, or you can call it HP. You can set it to ever you like. I will set it to 10. And in the step event, if HP is less than 0, less or equal, the sprite index change to the broken chain sprite. The image index will be the same, so it will not change. The sprite will not change. You can see the broke sprite also have 4 pictures. Okay, and the next thing is to delete the joint at the next chain. Okay, you can do it by type with next chain. We also not have a next chain value. Okay, with next chain joint delete, physics joint delete, and the joint ID that we need to. Okay, so if HP will be less than 0 or equal, the joint will be deleted, and the chain that we hit will be turned to the broke sprite. Okay, I can only show it to you in my project. So if you shoot the chain, you can see it's broke, and because this chain deleted, or this chain deleted that chain joint, and it falls down. Okay, so it's just a basic form of the chain in GameMaker. I know it's not the perfect. You can improve it, I think, with better sprites and more calibration, but I think it's have a lot of potential. So you can make a rope exactly like this, you have to just change the sprite and the calibration. I want to make a grappling hook with this chain time. I have to turn it to a rope for the grappling hook. Okay, I hope it makes sense to you. You can use this idea and my project that I will upload, and you can download it in the description. I know this tutorial was not very good, but it's my first tutorial, so don't blame me, please. The next video will be maybe a story video. Okay, I hope you will try this and it will work for you. Thank you for watching. Bye.